Hello and welcome back. Now, we created this nice barrel explosive, and the only thing it does so far is blow up when we shoot it. But it would be nice if, when it blows up, it deals damage to the surrounding characters. So what we're going to do is implement some damage for the explosive. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, here in Visual Studio, I'm going to open up our explosive.cpp, and we'll see here that we implement the bullet hit implementation function. So whenever we shoot the explosive, this function gets called. And what I'd like to first take care of is see what actors we overlap at the time that this bullet gets shot. So I'd like to have an overlap volume here so that we can see what actors are overlapping this volume and are thus close to the explosive. So let's go to explosive.h and add a collision sphere in the private variables section. So I'm going to forward declare this, and it's going to be a uSphere component, and I'm going to call this overlap sphere. Now I'd like to give this a U property and make it edit anywhere blueprint read write, and we can give it a category of combat and this meta specifier here. So I'm going to copy those specifiers from the impact sound variable. Now I'm going to give this a comment, and I'm going to say used to determine what actors overlap during explosion. So now we have an overlap sphere. Now notice here that we don't have a mesh variable in C++. That's because we added that static mesh in the blueprints. Now I'd like for the mesh to be the root component, so we're going to add the mesh here in the private section. So let's add a static mesh component. So it's going to be forward declared uStatic mesh component pointer called explosive mesh. Now this will be a U property, and I'm going to make it visible anywhere, blueprint read only, and I'll give it the category and meta specifiers that we've been using. And for the comment, we'll just say mesh for the explosive. Now we need to create these in the constructor, so let's do that now. So here's the constructor, and I'm first going to create the mesh. So we're going to say explosive mesh equals create default subobject uStatic mesh component, and we'll say the text will be explosive mesh. Now I'm going to set explosive mesh to be the root component. So we're going to say set root component explosive mesh. And next we can create the sphere component. So we're going to say overlap sphere equals create default subobject uSphere component. And for the text on this one, we'll just say overlap sphere. And I'm going to attach the sphere to the root component. So we're going to say overlap sphere setup attachment get root component. Now IntelliSense is going to complain because we need the sphere component header file. We didn't need the uStatic mesh component header file. Those are included by default depending on the version you're using. If you do get this error for the explosive mesh, then that indicates you do need the header file. But for the sphere, we definitely need it. Now I'm going to cheat and go over into our item.cpp file. And in item.cpp, we include the sphere component header. It's in components/sphere-component.h. So I'm going to copy that and come over here and paste it into explosive.cpp just to get rid of that error. So we now have a static mesh component explosive mesh, and we have a sphere component overlap sphere. So we now have an overlap sphere, and we can use this to determine which actors are overlapping with this sphere when the explosive blows up. So let's go all the way back down to bullet hit implementation. And here we have this comment that says to do apply explosive damage. Let's remove that to do because we're now doing this to do, and the first thing we need to do is get all the actors that are overlapping with this collision sphere. So here's what we can do. There's a nifty function called getOverlappingActors, and what it does is it takes a t-array of actors and fills it in with all actors overlapping this actor. So we can create a t-array of a actor pointers, and we can call this overlapping actors. And then we can call getOverlappingActors. This is a function that is inherited from the actor class, and since explosive is an actor, it inherits getOverlappingActors. Now, getOverlappingActors can take a t-array of actors. If we look at the second overload here, it can take a t-array of actors that gets passed in by a non-const reference, which is a pretty good hint that this function is going to change that input. And then it also takes a t subclass of for the class filter. Now, this is a class that you can pass in to tell this function only get the overlapping actors that inherit from this class. Now, if we shoot the barrel and the character is too close, we want to apply damage to the character as well. So for the first argument, we're going to pass in overlapping actors. And for the class filter, since we'd like to apply damage to both enemies and the character, if the character is too close, we're going to just pass in the a character class and use static class here. That'll give us a U class for the a character class. Now, incomplete type is not allowed is giving us a hint that we need to include a header file here for the a character class. Now, Unreal Engine documentation says that that's in gameframework/character.h. So I'm going to go ahead and include that right here at the top, and we should get rid of that error. Now, once we've gotten an array of characters that are overlapping with this actor, then we can start to loop through that array. So we can say for auto actor in overlapping actors. And so we can essentially do something to each actor in overlapping actors. Now this is a t-array of actors, but we know that each of them is at least derived from character because we're using the a character static class as a filter in getOverlappingActors. So just to make sure this is working correctly, I'm going to create a UE log, and it's going to be log temp warning, and for the text, I'm going to say actor damaged by explosive, and then I'm going to use the format specifier %s, and then I'm going to pass in a string, and that string I'm going to pass in is going to be actor get name. And I'm going to need to use the asterisk here so I can get the tcar array. And that way, this will be an old school C-style string passed in, and UE log will understand that. So that's all we're going to do for now is we're just going to get all overlapping actors and loop through that array of actors and then print the name of that just to see which actors are actually being affected when this barrel blows up. Let's go ahead and compile this. Okay, so we've compiled. I'm going to go ahead and open up Explosive BP. And here in Explosive BP, we're getting an error because we created a variable called explosive mesh when there already was an explosive mesh in the blueprint. Let's go ahead and select the explosive mesh we created in the blueprint, not the one that says inherited, that's the one from C++. And let's go ahead and delete this non-inherited explosive mesh and hit compile. And that'll take care of any errors. So we have this explosive mesh that's our root component, and our details panel is empty, so that doesn't look right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and delete explosive BP, and it's being used in the default map, so we're going to have to hit force delete, and it'll delete all the explosives from the default map here. Okay, so they're all deleted. Let's go ahead and create a new blueprint based on our explosive class. So here's our explosive CPP class. I'm going to go ahead and create blueprint class based on explosive and stick it in our _game/explosives folder, which it looks like is gone now because we deleted everything in that folder. So let's go ahead and create that again. So new folder, let's call this explosives, and we'll create that blueprint class now. So here's explosive, create blueprint class. Let's select explosives and call this explosive BP. And create blueprint class. Now here is our blueprint class. Now I'm going to select explosive mesh, and now our details panel is populated with things that we can set. So if you ever add a static mesh component and it looks blank like that, try deleting the blueprint and creating it again, and seeing if you get that stuff back. Now on the explosive mesh static mesh component, there's a static mesh, and I'm going to select that barrel static mesh, SM barrel 02. And there's the barrel. Now I'm going to select the overlap sphere and increase that radius to maybe 250 or so. And this way we can see which actors are affected when we explode this. So I'm going to compile and save that and close out of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and test this out. And there we go. So you'll see that when I shot this, we got actor damaged by explosive enemy BP9, that's this guy right here, and shooter character BP, that's our character. Now we didn't get the explosion or the sound because since we recreated this blueprint, we have to reset those assets. So let's open explosive BP, and for explode particles, I believe it was explode something or other, explode ballistic maybe. We'll select one of those and see how it works. And then, of course, the sound, we have the explosion cue. And let's just test this out and make sure we get the explosion. That looks good. Okay, this is going to conclude this video. We now have an overlap sphere for the explosive, and when we blow it up, we're getting all overlapping actors, at least those derived from the A character class. In the next video, we're going to determine what happens to those characters. So stay tuned.